Hello, gamers, and welcome to this Link to the Past randomizer match between Benny and Tyrant242. Tyrant242 on the left there, and Benny on the right side of our screen. This is going to be a Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament 2025 VOD rewatch with some commentary provided by myself, DDR Kirby ISQ. This is going to be a match that happened last week as part of week one of the Swiss pairings of the Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament. So both of these runners will be or were live coached by their respective mentors. Looks like we already got our map check today. So we got, looks like crystals at Eastern and Desert and a green pendant at Tower of Hera. Tyrant242's mentors for this seed is Oficial Alex 2K6, and Benny's mentor for this seed is Mormasil. So these mentors will be, or were, in a live voice call with these mentees trying to best instruct them on how they should approach the seeds that they're running. Looking forward to seeing how this race plays out. These mentees are just in week one, so they're at the very beginning of their mentee journey here. And since the mode for this week is Open Assured Sword, a common route that you see, that we do see Tyrant242 doing here is starting at Link's house, doing the Uncle and Secret Passage checks, and then since we already have a sword, we can hop right over to the front of the Hyrule Castle escape sequence. Looks like we already got bombs for both of our runners. That was the Tier 1 tree pull prize. So if you kill 1 to 3 enemies and then pull one of the specific trees in the game, you will get the randomized Tier 1 tree pull prize, and that happened to be bombs for the seed. So looks like we're going to have all set up with bombs when we reach Kakariko, which Benny is going to get to much earlier than Tyrant242. Tyrant242, of course, investing the time into doing these checks in the front of escape. Now, in most cases, runners will, it is possible for you to skip the front of escape, but usually you'll at least do the Uncle Secret Passage checks. And I imagine that Benny at some point is going to get back to those, even though they chose to start at Sanctuary. So Benny is going to be the first one into Kakariko, but, if Tyrant finds, the flute especially is a big item that could show up here, because then you'd just be able to activate it right away on your first trip to Kakariko, so that could be a big find. But so far, nothing of note here in front of Castle Escape. Tyrant is going to go ahead and enter their fight with the first, mini-boss of the vanilla game, the Ball and Chain Guard. Meanwhile, we're going to get a check of Blind's Hut over on Benny's side. And as we get into, the kind of early section of the race, just want to give a huge shout out to everyone involved in putting this entire tournament together. It takes a lot of work to, organize everything for this tournament, and we wouldn't be able to do it without all of the crew helping to admin and moderate and set up everything, but also, all of the mentees who are willing to learn and all of the mentors who are helping them every week hone their skills. All right, so it looks like nothing of relevance inside the front of escape, but, probably a dungeon that you're probably going to do at some point, unless you just choose to, skip it forever. If you have a mirror, one option you can do is to kind of delay it until you can combo it with the Pyramid Ledge, but we'll see if that ends up being an option for our runners today. Got a nice heart container in the well here in Kakariko. Early health is always welcome. Got an Ether Medallion and the Flippers. Okay, some nice items. We already have enough money to check Bottle Vendor, so no risk of orphaning that today. And looks like we have an early Cane of Samaria, so whenever I see an early Cane of Samaria, especially if a Ether Medallion is required to get into Turtle Rock, that kind of sets off my spidey senses and tells me that maybe some required progression is hiding inside Turtle Rock, because remember, you do need the Cane of Samaria to clear the boss of Misery Mire, but other than that, it's mainly used to get into all of Turtle Rock, so could be a slight hint pointing in that direction, but it could also just be a coincidence that we found the Cane of Samaria early. Right, looks like we got a bottle here in the back of the tavern. It's super nice because we can just hop right on over and check Sick Kid. Also nice to have a red potion early on. Like I said, these are mentees in the kind of the beginning of their learning career in the Meta tournament, and so I've worked with a lot of mentees who, just like whenever they get any sort of safeties, an extra sword upgrade, a bottle, a fairy, even like the cape or anything, a lot of them are breathing a huge sigh of relief because, yeah, some of the low percent boss fights, if you're up against Blind or Mothula with not a lot of hearts and not a lot of backups and only green mail, they can be really, really tough fights, especially if you're just, just getting started. Okay, it looks like we just have some bombs on race game, so Benny gonna go ahead and scout that and just save some time by saving quitting. We'll see what their next play is. I imagine we're probably gonna see a check of the... Okay, I was gonna say either going south to the South Shore checks, or we're gonna see them go north and follow in Tyrant's footsteps and do these secret passage checks. Benny actually taking an alternative route to the Hyrule Castle Secret Passage. This is what you have to do in the vanilla game. You have to kind of go around the castle because the gate is closed, and then you have to drop down here. I do believe this is slightly slower if you have the option of going the other way, but I don't think it actually makes a ton of difference. And I imagine Benny is also going to take this into Front of Escape, although, like I said, it wouldn't be crazy to leave those checks behind and try to get them later, or maybe try to skip them entirely. But looks like Benny is going to walk out of here, so when all the dust is settled, I think both of our runners are going to end up with the same, the same number of checks. Do have a half magic pickup as well. Looks like that is going to not really be relevant yet, but if we ever find, the Cane of Berna or the Magic Cape, that could be a really big boon. We'll see, in terms of... So like I said, in terms of the checks that our runners have done, not really too much difference. Looks like Benny also scouted Lumberjack Cave at some point. I don't know if Tyrant chose to do that, so that might be one potential difference, but we'll see who ends up coming out of all these checks first. It looks like, from my eyes, Tyrant is probably going to come out of this slightly ahead. Benny still has to, go all the way to Fallen Chain Guard. We'll see if Tyrant also decides to scout the item on race game, or just decides to go in the door here. Okay, it looks like they're also going to scout it, which is good for them because it's just 3 bombs and definitely are not going to need that. Alright, so Tyrant is going to make the first decision on where to go from here. It's probably going to be towards the South Shore checks. We do have the flippers on hand, so that does also enable us to get a check of Hobo and also swim over to the Zora area. Of course, we're short just a little bit of money for the Zora check, which does cost 500 rupees, so we're going to need 73 more rupees on Tyrant's side in order to check that. Definitely possible those rupees could show up in the Dam or Mini Moldrum Cave. Okay, Benny gonna try and sneak past this green guard, and a little bit of chaos happening here. Needs to be a little bit careful. Okay, gonna pick up another pot. Yeah, those pots do have hearts underneath, so if you're ever in danger, can be worth it to pick up an extra one. Looks like they were intentionally keeping the green guard alive to set up for a death warp, so this tells me they're gonna try and get over to Dark Cross by setting up this death warp. Now, Dark Cross is a check that is not in logic here. Logically, it does require the Fire Rod or the Lamp to reach. But it's possible that it could be another item, or it could also be the key. And if it's the key, that means we can actually make it all the way to the back here, which, there's three additional treasure chests in the back of Hyrule Castle Escape. Now, in a lot of seeds, you'll just end up finding the glove somewhere along the way, and then you'll be able to drop in from the back, but some seeds, it is required that you go through Dark Cross in order to get to the back. Okay, a little bit of flashing epilepsy warning on Tyrant's side, but we had a very quick kill of the mini Moldorms using the Ether Medallion, and looks like Tyrant is going to pick up the glove in Mini Moldorm Cave, so that is going to let them do what I said and drop into Hyrule Castle from the backside to get those 3 chests I was talking about. Benny, I believe, is in the Dark Cross chest room, so they just need to find the chest in the dark. Looks like they're trying to, navigate to that chest. One cue you can use is that the chest is directly underneath the arrow icon in the HUD. You can use that to line yourself up. Tyrant taking a little bit of an unorthodox swim route. I'm not sure if that's faster. It is definitely faster to go up and to the left here. Yeah, nice. So saving a little bit of time. Benny needs to be really careful here. Only has half a heart. I'm always wondering if it would be useful to, chug their red potion. Because you don't want to invest all this time and only to die before you reach the back here. I guess, unbeknownst to them, their glove is waiting for them at Mini Moldum Cave, so it won't actually be the end of the world, but yeah, it feels really bad in the moment to take a death there, because you were one screen away from making it to the back and making it to those 3 checks. Yeah, but I definitely agree with the decision to save and quit and just abort there. Just unfortunate that didn't work out, so that's a little bit of time that Benny is not going to be able to get back. In the meantime, looks like Tyrant is going to be farming this cave here with the 4 blue rupees until they have enough money for Zora. Looks like they did not actually find any rupees in Mini Moldum Cave. One fun fact that I like to throw out to a lot of my mentees is if you're going from Ice Rod Cave to Hobo, it's actually faster to save and quit than to swim around in this if you do the timing. So saving and quitting from Ice Rod Cave and coming back and doing the water checks in a separate trip is actually not the worst idea, because you don't actually save that much time. And it looks like Tyrant is actually going to go to Hobo. I will say this is not that much slower. I think I'll have to go look at the timings again, but even though it is slightly faster to save and quit, I don't think it's that much slower. But it is an option that can also be useful if you want to save and quit from Ice Rod Cave, and then go somewhere else to try and find some rupees, and then pick up the water checks afterward. It does look like we also got the book inside the dam, so that is going to allow our runners to hop over to Desert Palace. I'm not surprised to see that neither runner is going over there yet, especially because at the time, Benny doesn't have a glove yet, so we cannot access the back, and of course we need a fire source as well to finish the dungeon. And the dungeon could also be boots locked. So we'll see if Benny decides to do the same thing as Tyrant here. Ooh, so that's an interesting scout of the magic powder on Lake Hylia. That is going to require the Dark World access and the mirror in order to obtain, but once we get that, then we'll probably be able to check Magic Bat, assuming we have the hammer or the mitts in the mirror. And yeah, we'll see if Benny decides to do the same thing as Tyrant here and goes for the, farming extra rupees for Zora, or whether they decide to just play it a little bit differently. They do still have the 3 chests in the back of Escape outstanding. I think Tyrant, I guess Tyrant does as well, because they haven't saved and quit yet. Looks like we did pick up the hookshot in Waterfall Cave, so that actually opens up a lot of checks on Death Mountain. So that's probably the densest option available. That's going to be available to both of our runners, assuming Benny makes it over there to get their hookshot. And yeah, that second bush over there in the Zora domain, for some reason that second bush is a little bit weird, and when you try to hookshot to it, it can just phase right through for some reason. Okay, Zora has something. Okay, it's just going to be 10 arrows. It looks like Benny is also going to take the same approach and farm up those rupees for Zora. So both our runners having pretty similar ideas on how to approach this early game. Just did the sequencing of their checks in slightly different orders. And looks like we're going to get a check of Back of Escape from Tyrant. And Tyrant going to be able to save time on the escape sequence overall, because again, Dark Cross was just a key, so they're going to drop in here, open their 3 chests, and they're going to realize that Dark Cross is just a small key, and they're going to be able to leave that behind forever. Alright, looks like that is our lamp over here in the Back of Escape. So that is going to give us logical access to Death Mountain. So we've got a couple different choices here from Tyrant's side, and it looks like they're going to go over to Desert. Yeah, this is going to be a play to Desert. So I think the main 2 choices here are between going to Desert Palace and going up the mountain. Obviously, the mountain has more density, right? You can hookshot across, and Paradox Cave has 7 checks waiting for you. You might want to put off the mountain because there might be progression, hiding out in Tower of Hera, and we're missing the hammer to get over to Hera. So that might be a potential reason you might want to put off the mountain. Potential reason why you might want to put off Desert Palace is, again, could be boots locked. So we could potentially full clear this dungeon and finish everything, but we could also potentially not be able to do that. Looks like Tyrant is going to hop into Agina and check this first. I'm not sure if this is just faster sequencing overall, or whether it's an attempt to maybe score the boots here. You know, if your boots are here in Agina and Desert Palace's boots locked, you would feel really silly if you went to Desert first and then Agina. It looks like it's just a red rupee. Unfortunately, it does mean, if you sequence it this way, it does mean you have to do this long walk out of the Agina cave. So that can feel a little bit slow, but I'm not actually sure which way is faster overall when all is said and done. Because if you do Desert Palace first, you can get locked into an awkward situation where you have to walk all the way out of Desert Palace to get to Agina, so that can also be slow. So, alright, looks like Benny did know to avoid hookshotting to that second Phantom Bush. And they're going to pick up they're going to spend all of their 500 rupees, turning it into Zora for just 10 arrows. And we'll see what they decide to do next. I think cleaning up the back of Escape, like Tyrant did, would probably be my first choice. But after that, they could decide to go up the mountain instead of making a play to Desert. We'll see if they are worried about the boots locked situation. Alright, so Tyrant is going to open this first chest, and that's going to tell us that Desert Palace is not boots locked. At least not fully. We'll see if the small key is on the torch here, or whether there's a progression item on the torch here. Looks like it is the small key, so the right side of Desert Palace is going to be boots locked. And logically, that also means that the boss is... it does also mean that logically the boss is going to be boots locked, because the randomizer logic does account for you taking the key out of the back of Desert Palace and then using it on the right side as well. Now, of course, there's no reason you would really want to do that because it's more important that you kill Lanmo for your guaranteed crystal. But just worth noting that all of the other items here, or the other item here besides that 50 rupees that we saw in the big chest, the other item here in Desert Palace is going to be logically locked by the Pegasus boots. So it looks like we're seeing our first big major divergence of the seed, so Benny is going to decide to stay away from Desert Palace. Again, probably Benny and Mormasil are probably concerned about the possibility of Desert being boots locked, like I was mentioning before, so they're choosing to go up the mountain first. We'll see whether this ends up having any ramifications for the rest of the seed. Not sure if actually... I still see... I'm not actually sure if Benny did end up going to the back of Escape, so that might actually still be outstanding. A little bit surprised, yeah, especially since the lamp was there. Yeah, so they didn't end up getting their lamp from the back of Escape. That's a little bit of a shame, but looks like they managed to get through the Old Man Escape in the Dark just fine. It is one of the easiest dark rooms to do, so no big surprises there. Alright, so Tyrant is going to enter their fight with Lanmo shortly. Unfortunately, not great equipment for this fight. You're basically just going to have to use your sword. If you want to, you can try to use like the Cane of Samaria. It looks like Tyrant is already pre-swapping to the Cane of Samaria. It can get you maybe some extra bonus hits, but for the most part, it's just going to be sword slashes and spins. And I don't think sword spins will do any extra damage to Lanmo. So it's just going to be kind of a long fight where you just have to do a bunch of hits. Not much you can do better than that. Benny is going to find the bow here in Paradox Cave, so that is a great pickup. It's going to let them clear out full clear Eastern Palace once they're done with the mountain checks. It'll be a little bit easier for them to get through Eastern Palace if they end up going to the back of Escape first, so that they can get their lamp, but we'll see if they end up choosing to do that or not. Okay. Another heart container is certainly welcome as well. Benny going to set up for this Paradox Cave bomb jump. Very nicely done. Okay, and Tyrant is going to pick up the first crystal of the game. Gets a nice reward with that Master Sword. So that Master Sword, again, is logically locked by the boots. Not sure if that's actually going to be relevant, but could be relevant if something is, you know, for example, located on one of our tablets. I guess we don't have access to any of them right now, but... or, you know, if we end up thinking about a potential play to Like, if it's looking like we have to do Aghanim, for example, and our access through Aghanim is through the Master Sword, it's important to realize that Aghanim would be, logically locked behind the boots. So you probably want to go and find your boots first. And yeah, it looks like Tyrant, their only other choice here was to go to Saha, and they're deciding not to do that, which is going to work out for them because, remember, the bow is waiting on Paradox Cave, so after getting that, we can combo together Paradox Cave, we can combo together Saha as well as a full clear of Eastern Palace. Tyrannos is also going to go ahead and do their Lumberjack Cave check now, as Benny is going to go pick up their lamp from the back escape. They're probably going to feel really good about doing this, since it is going to have their lamp, and that is going to make back escape, or it's going to make Eastern Palace a little bit easier. So even though both of our runners are doing things in, kind of did things in the reverse order, I think, I guess it depends on what we find in Saha and Eastern Palace. So I think if Saha and Eastern Palace, I guess they kind of have to have something, right? Because what else do we have left? I guess those are the only checks we haven't seen, because we've seen everything else on the mountain. So progression is going to have to be found here in either Saha or Eastern Palace. And depending on what it is, Benny could have a decision to make between, for example, heading to the Dark World versus going to Desert Palace. They wanted to put off Desert Palace before they chose to go up the mountain instead of going to Desert Palace, even though it's a potentially clearable crystal. And like I said, I have to imagine that they're worried about Desert Palace being boots locked. So depending on what they find and unlock here, I'm wondering if they're gonna make the same decision, or whether they're going to commit to doing Desert Palace before, for example, heading to the Dark World. We'll have to see. We did get the shovel in Saha's closet, so that is another check that we can do once we're done here with the Eastern Palace area. We're still 2 items away from our Dark World access, so that is interesting. I imagine we're going to find our Moon Pearl, unless we find, I guess, the hammer or the mirror to get access to Tower of Hera. I guess that's another option. But once we find our Moon Pearl, it is kind of an interesting scenario. It does raise, some questions, like I said before, about where the boots are, because then we would be able to clear Aghanim's tower to get us Dark World access, but again, that is logically locked behind the boots. It's also possible, of course, we could just get another glove or the hammer, and then we'd have Dark World access without doing Aga. We'll have to see what happens. Alright, so Tyrant finding their bow in Paradox Cave. Benny is going to continue making their way through Eastern Palace. And if you're enjoying this race so far, I highly encourage you to give both of these runners a follow on Twitch. I will have the link to both of their Twitch channels in the description of this video. Again, this is week 1 of the Swiss pairings for the Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament 2025. And I'm going to try and, when I have time, try to do some addition, some more VOD rewatches with commentary, just like I'm doing here. Just an attempt to, highlight the performance of these mentees that we have going through the tournament this year, as well as, work that all of our mentors have been putting in to coach them. We do have some restreams that have been going on in the Go Mode Podcast Twitch channel. So if you're interested, I highly encourage you to tune into those as well, so you can catch these races as they happen live with some live commentary. But for those races that don't end up getting a restream, I'm going to try and commentate some of them myself, so that we can get some more matches that we can watch. All right, so Benny did find the Moon Pearl here in Eastern Palace. Looks like there is 1 item left in Eastern Palace to find. So Benny did have the option of taking the Eastern Palace 50/50, as it's called. So you can elect to, instead of going to this chest, you can elect to go straight to Armless Knights, and then hope that your second item, or hope that your last item is on Armless Knights. If it is, then you're done, and you just saved about a minute of time walking to this Vanilla Vicky chest. But if it isn't, you end up losing, I think maybe like 50 seconds of time or something like that. I do know that it is faster on average, to, even if you, to take the approach of going to Armless Knights first, but it does increase, wildly increase the variance of the seed. It looks like Benny did end up making the right choice here, as the hammer was here in the Vanilla Key chest. So that is going to be our Dark World access for Benny. Again, it'll be interesting to see where they choose to take this. Again, Desert Palace is still on the table, but I think if I was in Benny and Mormoso's shoes, I'd be looking towards Pod, because once you finish Eastern Palace, you're kind of right there. You just have to take one screen south, and then you can hop in the Dark World portal, and you have everything you need to full clear Palace of Darkness. Now, unfortunately, neither of our runners have stepped foot into the Dark World, so we don't actually know whether Pod is a crystal or pendant dungeon, so we don't know whether it's required, but could be a good idea to consider. Right, so Tyrant is just entering Eastern Palace now. Again, going to be quite a bit behind Benny in this dungeon because they spent the time to go ahead and clear all of Desert Palace. But, you know, Desert Palace is a required crystal, so that is time that Benny is going to have to pay back later. Could be sped up if Benny ends up finding the boots on the way, but we'll see if that happens or not. Alright, looks like Benny is setting up for this Armos quick kill. Now, looks like, unfortunately, was one arrow short there. I think you have to shoot 5 arrows to the right at the beginning of the fight. But gets the fight taken care of without too much problems, and we'll see where they go from here. We've got a couple options. They can, of course, walk south and try to head to Pod, like I said. Actually, good point about that. They don't actually have the money to get into Palace of Darkness, so that would actually be not a good idea. Okay, so correctly avoiding that idea, and instead going to save and quit. So we'll see if they choose to hop into the Dark World, or whether they want to maybe check on that Shovel Dig spot first, or whether they want to head over to Desert Palace. This looks like they're heading to the Dark World. Ooh, almost a very nice strat by Tyrant over there in the Stalfos room. They almost got the perfect 3-arrow kill there, but unfortunately got the top Stalfos to spawn accidentally as well. Alright, Benny is going to give us our map check for the Dark World. Looks like we have pendants at Turtle Rock and Misery Mire, so we might not need any medallions on this seed, actually. And Palace of Darkness is a crystal dungeon, so if we get money here in Hype Cave for Benny, that could be a potential next step. Another option, of course, is to go west over to Stumpy and Dig Game. That is another common route. We'll see if there's any money here in Hype Cave. Looks like Tyrant on their side did decide to also take the same approach to routing Eastern Palace. So they chose to go for the Vanilla Beak key chest first, so that is going to not gain or lose them any time compared to Benny. Both of these runners, of course, would be gaining time on me because I do like to take that 50-50. But of course, I'm not the one playing the game here. Looks like Benny did get 2 red rupees over there in Hype Cave, so that is going to be just enough money to get into Pod, and it looks like they are probably going to walk over there. We'll see if they decide to check Pyramid Ledge on the way. Yeah, it looks like they're deciding not to do that stop at Pyramid Ledge. So going straight to Pod here, I think this is definitely a choice I agree with. You have the money, it's a full clearable crystal, you have everything you need to get to the end. It's also a red crystal, so that is going to unlock access to Pyramid Ledge, to Pyramid Ferry, which is actually a great reason why you would want to skip over Pyramid Ledge here, because you could combo it together with Pyramid Ferry once you do those checks. So again, overall, I don't think either of our runners has really a sizable advantage or disadvantage. I think given that there was a Master Sword in Desert Palace, I don't really think that's really going to come into play that much anytime soon. Here in Palace of Darkness, a common strategy is to use the bow, for Helmasaur. Okay, Tyrant is also lining up for their Armos quick kill. Okay, it looks like they got the right beginning, but unfortunately couldn't get over to fire the downward arrows quite fast enough, and they got hit by the Armos. So over 2 on successful Armos quick kills, but luckily that fight doesn't really get too far out of hand. A lot of sweet hookshot usage by Benny over there. The hookshot is, of course, going to travel at make link travel at 2 pixels per frame total. So it is about 30. About what is it? I think 33% faster than walking in a straight line. So it does actually save you time. Not as much time as you might expect from how fast it feels to use a hookshot, but it does save you some time. It is 33% faster. All right, Benny going to continue routing through pod. Looks like we have the most common Palace of Darkness key layout, where we just get 2 keys right off the bat. And I assume that if Benny does not know about the pod key logic rules, I'm assuming that their mentor, Mormasil, is going to be walking them through that. So there are rules that you can use to help route pod. Tyrant? Okay, I'm going to say you probably want to check Hype Cave. It's 5 items and you're right here. Tyrant, of course, not going to have to worry about... I'm actually surprised that Tyrant did not choose to walk out of Eastern and just head to pod directly. Because they actually did have enough money to do Palace of Darkness even without going to Hype Cave, but they might have been wanting to do a Darkhold map check. You know, like I said, it wasn't any guarantee that Palace of Darkness was a crystal dungeon, and so might not be something you want to invest time into if it's a pendant dungeon. It's also possible they could have just wanted to get those 5 items at Hype Cave immediately. You know, there could be something nice there, could end up finding the boots, or maybe another sword upgrade, maybe the mirror, because the mirror does make routing through pod a lot faster. Okay, it looks like so far we got 1 item at a Palace of Darkness, and it looks like we also got the big key. And so Benny is going to take the approach of going and doing Helmasaur first. This, of course, makes a lot of sense. After doing Helmasaur, you get to just start at the beginning of the dungeon, so it's kind of like a free mirror usage. And of course we don't have the mirror on hand, so if we chose to do Helmasaur last, we'd most likely be either setting up for a Death Warp or taking a really long walk out of the Dark Maze in Palace of Darkness. So doing it this way ensures that once you finish with the Dark Maze, you can just save and quit and not have to worry about that at all. So this is a really nice strategy when you don't have the mirror. And even when you do have the mirror, I do believe this is faster overall because again, Helmasaur could have one of the 4 remaining items, and that might allow you to skip one of the chests that you might not otherwise have skipped elsewhere in the dungeon. And of course, we are required to take down Helmasaur because it has one of our 7 crystals that we are going to need to get entrance into Ganon's Tower, which is ultimately going to be our goal here. Ooh, accidentally flips over some of the turtles, so if you... Yeah, the hammer will one-shot these turtles, so that is what you want to do, but unfortunately, hammer also flips back the turtles that are on their back, so you gotta be a little bit careful. Alright. Benny is entering their fight with Helmasaur. It's going to be 17 hammer hits for phase 1 to crack open this mask. Looks like Helmasaur is playing pretty nice so far, not even launching any fireballs. And as expected, we're going to go for bow shots for phase 2. It's going to be 8 bow shots to take down the fight, and Benny has plenty of health, so I'm not really worried about this. Very nicely done. And that is going to be crystal number 2 for Benny. Looks like they're going to get their second crystal. Oh, another sword. That's definitely a nice pickup. Their second crystal at the 33-minute mark and about 20 seconds. So we can maybe use that as a reference point once Tyrant gets over there. Tyrant taking... Okay, I was going to say, yeah, taking a little bit of a strange approach to routing, but yeah, okay. They're definitely going to go to the Bowlock side. Looks like just some... just accidentally went back up the stairs, and Benny going to go ahead and go for the remaining 3 items here in Palace of Darkness. And like I was mentioning, Helmasaur did have one of the remaining items, so now we're going to have to look for one less item here and potentially going to be able to skip, you know, for example, the big chest. Interestingly, Tyrant doesn't have any bombs remaining. There are some bombs in the second screen in Palace of Darkness, as well as on the bridge across from the big chest, so Shouldn't really be an issue. Oh, and I guess I missed that. We got the Titansmiths as our first item here in Palace of Darkness, so that is definitely a big ticket item. So those Titansmiths might actually... I wonder if that is... So, I guess the Titansmiths opens up Darkwood Death Mountain, so there's 6 checks if you count Super Bunny Cave and Hookshot Caves, so that's definitely a very dense area that we can do here. Other than that, it lets us get started on Smith Chain, but, you know, without the mirror, it's a little bit awkward to, you know, turn in the frog and the smith because you have to take a saving quit. So I wonder if with those myths, Benny is going to be incentivized. And unfortunately, the map showing up in that chest, so not actually going to be able to skip any chests by doing Helmasaur first, but what can you do? Alright, so I wonder if Benny is going to head up the mountain and do the checks over there on Death Mountain before heading to Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town. It looks like they are not doing that, so they're going to hold off on the mountain for now. They might, you know, one reason for doing that might be because, you know, like I said, we had an early Cane of Samaria, and especially if Turtle Rock is gated by the Ether Medallion, could be a suspicious looking location for progression to show up, and of course, we don't have the Fire Rod to really get us access to, guaranteed access to a lot of Turtle Rock checks. So it kind of depends on the key layout. We could potentially have access to all of Turtle Rock, including Laser Bridge minus Trinex. It kind of depends on the key layout, and of course we don't have access to Mimic Cave either. So that might be a reason that Benny is putting off the rest of the mountain. It could also just be that, you know, there's just more checks here. If you count up the checks in Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town, you know, that's 7 checks, so it's just more than 6. Plus, you know, we have a full clearable crystal dungeon here in Thieves Town, so maybe we just want to do that first. But we'll see if Tyrant decides to make the same decision after they're done with Pod, or whether they decide to play it a little bit differently. Looks like they're gonna get their crystal at about the 36-minute and 40-second mark, so looks like there is about 3 minutes and 20 seconds of difference here between these two runners at this point, which is, you know, sounds about right, given that Tyrant did take the time to clear Desert Palace. And I have to imagine that was, you know, that's basically where this 3 minutes and 3.5 minutes of time difference came from. And again, Benny is going to have to go and clear Desert Palace at some point, so... Alright, so Tyrant correctly picking up those extra bombs so that they're going to have enough for the back here. And Benny is going to get started on their clear of Thieves Town. There's going to be 4 items here in Thieves Town, and yeah, we'll see if there's anything interesting here. It'd be really nice if we could find the mirror, because then we could do all of Smith Chain along the way as we're going to Dig Game and Stumpy. But that might be a little bit too much to hope for. In terms of what we're looking for to still finish the game, we still need our mirror to finish Swamp Palace, and that then I guess we don't necessarily need the flute or the ice rod, but we're going to need our fire rod to clear out Skullwoods, and that will also allow us to clear Ice Palace. It looks like we got the boots here in Thieves Town. Definitely a nice pickup. Benny is going to be able to move through this dungeon, the rest of this dungeon, a lot more quickly. So what did I say? We need Fire Rod and the mirror, right? So actually only 2 items that we need, especially since we have the boots. You know, I guess Desert Palace was logically locked by the boots, but now everything is back in logic, so yeah, just the Fire Rod and the mirror, if I'm not mistaken. So depending on where those are, this seed could actually be not be, you know, that long of a seed. But of course, we never know where those items are going to be until we really find out where they're going to be, right? You know, like I think there is a chance that, you know, the mirror ends up on pedestal, for example. The fire rod can't be on pedestal because We do need the Fire Rod to beat, what's it called? Turtle Rock, but Mirror could potentially be on pedestal. Looks like Tyrant is going to go ahead and give us a check of the checks on the mountain. So this is, again, a little bit more divergence here. So Tyrant choosing to prioritize the Dark Death Mountain checks over Benny, who chose to go to Village of Outcasts Thieves Town instead. Feel like... Oh, and Tyrant is also going to use this opportunity to go across this bridge, check Ether Tablets, which definitely makes a lot of sense. So it'll be interesting to see if they choose to full clear Tower of Hera, which is a pendant dungeon. And yeah, Benny was in a little bit of a hairy situation there with only 1 heart left, but chooses to use their red potion. I definitely agree with that decision. So Tower of Hera, a little bit of epilepsy warning. Yeah, every time these runners get out the Ether Medallion, you're photosensitive, you might want to look away. So, is Tyrant going to step into Tower of Hera here? It looks like they are. So this dungeon, of course, is going to be made a lot faster if you know how to do the Hera pot setup, and we can, of course, do that because we have the hookshot on hand. So I imagine that is going to be the plan here for Tyrant. Looks like we got our last item out of Thieves Town, so really just the boots that we found here in Thieves Town. Unfortunately, it does mean that I guess it depends. Yeah, I'm not. It's still to be determined. You know, which one of these runners is going to come out ahead in terms of the routing. But getting the boots earlier is always, is always a good thing. You know, when. Okay, very nice job with that Hera pot setup. And Benny's going to try and finish up this blind fight. So far, no damage taken. Wow, that was actually a flawless fight. No damage taken. Not perfect on the blind script, of course, but if you can take 0 damage, you're definitely in good shape. Okay, and Tyrant finding their first item there. Okay, so gonna be taking down Moldorm for potentially a second item and also a green pendant. I wonder if that green pendant is part of what motivated, stepping foot in this dungeon. But I will say, with the hookshot on hand and doing the Hera pot clip, Tower of Hera is a relatively quick dungeon. And Benny is going to have the boots when they make it up to Death Mountain to do their Dark Death Mountain checks, as well as potentially good step into Hera. So that is going to save them some time. And of course, they are also going to have their boots for clearing Desert Palace. So I guess overall, so far, I'm liking this for Benny just a little bit more, just based on the fact that they found those boots. But like I said, there's still potential for example, the mirror to show up on Death Mountain, and that could play a big role if something is, on the in like purple chest, for example. That mirror, if we find the mirror, that could also allow you to grab the powder off of the Lycadia, so that could potentially be relevant. We'll have to see how this works out. It's also worth noting that because Benny has the boots on hand, they are going to be able to. He is going to be able to. Oh, never mind. I was going to say they're going to be able to check the right side of Desert Palace, but there are actually no items on the right side of Desert Palace, so there's no reason to do that. Here's something you don't see very often. We see Benny taking a shot at the archery game for some extra rupees. A little bit curious why they decided to commit to this, actually. They've already done chess game and dig game. Oh yeah, I guess they didn't have enough rupees to buy the big bomb to open up Pyramid Fairy, so it's actually very heads-up thinking from Benny and their mentor Mormasil. And there's the Fire Rod for Tyrant in Hookshot Cave. So this could be really interesting. We're gonna see a lot of we might see some different things happening here, because the Fire Rod, of course, lets Tyrant clear both Skullwoods and Ice Palace. So we're probably... depends on how Tyrant wants to play this. But Tyrant and Official Alex 2K6, they might choose to, do those 2 dungeons before Thieves Town and Village of Outcasts. And that is unfortunately going to be a little bit of a shame, because they'd be missing their boots. Their boots are waiting for them in Thieves Town. Right, in the meantime, Benny decided to, pick up this big bomb to get the Pyramid Fairy checks. Very nice usage of that technique where you get hit by an enemy and use the... there's a small window in which you can actually successfully dash. Oh, and right there, yeah, very nice with the hook shot. Unfortunately, cancels the dash. I think they would have been safe doing that. And it looks like Tyrant is going to head into Ice Palace here. Yeah, I have to imagine you're feeling pretty okay about doing Ice Palace, given that we have Tempered Sword, and we also have, what's it called? We also have Half Magic. And there is the Quake Medallion here in Pyramid Ledge. Of course, we're kind of hoping that that's not relevant, because, both of our medallion-required dungeons are pendant dungeons today. It could end up being relevant for access into Misery Mire or Eternal Rock. We'll have to see. Alright, so no progression here on the pyramid in Pyramid Fairy, but we do get a nice fairy for a bottle. That's nice. It looks like Benny and Mormasil are going to take this all the way to checking Catfish. I think this makes a lot of sense. If you don't check Catfish now, you're probably never going to check it, because this is kind of the closest you're ever going to be when you're at Pyramid. Right, we'll see how Tyrant and Official Alex 2K6 decide to route through Ice Palace. Different people have some different opinions on how to do this. Looks like they're going to elect to hit the Crystal Switch before doing the Icebreaker clip. This does allow you to potentially skip needing the big key to get down to Cold Stare, but it does potentially make Iced Tea Chest a little bit slower to get to. So we'll see whether this ends up paying off for them or not. Looks like they're trying to set up for the correct positioning for this Icebreaker clip. And just a piece of heart here on Catfish. Oh, looks like, unfortunately, we got a little bit of stuttering on the stream for Benny. Okay, looks like it's back. Awesome. All right, so we know where the Fire Rod is. It's in Hookshot Cave. Looks like Benny, with these boots, is going to make the call to head over to Desert Palace. So that's going to be their next play. I think for Benny, this makes a lot of sense. I almost wonder if they should have checked the Shovel Dig spot along the way. It's kind of, not like directly on the way, but it's kind of on the path to Desert Palace. But I guess we'll have to wait and see that check a little bit later. Okay, and Tyrant looks like they're going to go head to Iced Tea Chest from above. Yeah, this makes sense given the fact that they chose to hit the Crystal Switch. And yeah, like I said, Benny going to be able to make up some... Well, I say that. It kind of depends on how they choose to route Desert Palace. If they end up checking the right side of this dungeon because they have the boots, that could actually end up in a time loss for them, because, Tyrant 242 was able to just skip the right side entirely, which, as we know, doesn't have any items. So we'll see if they choose to take this small key to the right side, or whether they choose to simply check the big chest and then check Landmo first, which is what I think would be recommended. I think intuitively it makes sense, right? You already find one item here, and you need to do Landmo anyway, so you might as well kill Landmo first, and that way you get a chance at skipping the right side entirely. But we'll see what decision they end up making. Looks like Tyrant is setting up for this easy bomb jump over here to Freezer Chest. And it looks like, yeah, Benny is going to be able to skip the right side of Desert Palace entirely. They're going to also have a slightly quicker fight against Landmo, potentially, because they do have the Master Sword, so spins with the Master Sword are going to do Tempered Sword damage, so that is going to help. They, of course, also have the Hammer if they want to use it, and they even have the bow and arrows if they are good at that sort of thing, which I am certainly terrible at, but if you ever play the No Major Glitches speedrun, that is something you're probably going to have a little bit of practice with. Okay, so it looks like one item left here in Ice Palace. Remember, we just need to find the mirror or go mode here on Tyrant's side. It's a nice usage of, yeah, some nice leverage of that half magic, making short work of Cold Stare, and just a bee in a bottle. So now the question is, where does Tyrant go next? So obviously we've got, we want to do both Skullwoods and Thieves Town as their clearable crystal dungeons, but, you know, kind of what order do you want to do these in? I think probably it makes the most sense to check into Skullwoods first, and then finish everything else afterward, but Skullwoods is not the fastest dungeon, so, you know, there is some merit to, you know, for example, okay, maybe we can just only do Skullwoods, only do the back Skullwoods and try to skip the front chests, but we'll see how Tyrant and their mentor choose to play this. Yeah, it looks like Benny making good use of these sword spins to try and get some extra damage on these landmos. Alright, and that's going to be the Tempered Sword for Benny. And they're going to be able to just dash straight over to Aegina and get that check out of the way. I guess for them, they've obviously... That Shovel Dig Spot check is still looking a little bit awkward, unfortunately. But aside from that, they have going up the mountain, and then they have the 2 boots checks. So that's going to be Bonk Rocks and King's Tomb. So it'll be interesting to see if they choose to do those 2 boots checks first, or whether they choose to go straight up the mountain. Obviously, going up the mountain has more density, but there is an argument for doing the boots checks first. That way you can, you know, commit harder to doing Pendant Tower of Hera once you get over there. Looks like they are starting at Sanctuary, so I think this is going to be the boots checks. The other thing that we haven't seen, you know, haven't seen play out yet is Tyrant did choose to full clear Tower of Hera, and that did net them the green pendant, but they haven't found a good time to squeeze in that green pendant turn-in. It's kind of, you know, we've already done Saha, we've already done Eastern Palace and Palace of Darkness, so it's kind of just the only thing hanging out there, so we'll have to see if and when they decide to do that turn-in. Looks like we got our final sword upgrade here in Skullwoods. Definitely nice to have. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually do any extra damage against Mothula. In fact, fun fact, Mothula is actually immune to Gold Sword damage in the vanilla game. Fortunately, the randomizer devs have chosen to temporarily transform your Golden Sword into a Tempered Sword damage for the Mothula fight. Otherwise, it would be a very awkward fight, as you'd have to rely on pokes, I think, but we don't have to worry about that. We just need to do our slashes. Looks like Benny did not find anything of relevance in those 2 boots checks, so I'm gonna be doing... Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, yeah, you gotta go up Paradox Cave. So I'm going to be doing these mountain checks. We'll see if they make the same decision in terms of whether to full clear Tower of Hera. I will say there might have been an argument for clearing just Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny Cave first, because we do have the equipment to be able to sequence break Spike Cave here. So you could potentially do Tower of Hera, Ether Tablet, and Spike Cave on a separate trip. It is true that Spike Cave is out of logic for Benny. I'm not sure where that Cane of Burna was for Tyrant. I guess maybe somewhere on the mountain? Or maybe it was in Tower of Hera? I forget. But Tyrant is going to be done with getting their 2 items out of Skullwoods. And if I saw correctly, I think they skipped the front of Skullwoods entirely, so the routing of Skullwoods is actually working out quite nicely for them. Unfortunately, they don't have the mirror or the flute, so they're going to elect to just walk all the way back through Skullwoods. I'm not sure whether this is faster or slower. Yeah, it might be slower if you have the boots, but of course we don't have the boots yet because the boots are waiting for us in Thieves Town. So on the one hand, it's really good that Tyrant's, you know, routing through Skullwoods was really good. On the other hand, it kind of feels a little bit bad that we had to walk all this way out of Skullwoods, but maybe there's nothing we could have done for that. Alright, looks like we got another successful Harapot clip on Benny's side. And Tyrant is going to make their way downward and get their first glimpse of Village of Outcasts in Thieves Town. Looks like we're not really concerned about Bumper Cave yet, as we don't have the cape. And I wonder if Tyrant is not going to feel super happy about finding the boots in Thieves Town, as, you know, obviously they could have made it there a lot earlier. Overall, I don't feel like Tyrant's route was worse. I think they... Honestly, anytime that you go into Desert Palace early with the potential of it being boots locked and you find that you can actually, you know, get everything out of the dungeon, you're probably feeling pretty good about that. Ooh. Unfortunate fall by Benny on Moldorm. Sometimes that just happens and you can't really do much about it. But yeah, I think I've gotta imagine that Benny is gonna be in the lead here just due to that boots location. It's really the main thing here. But really, the rest of this game's outcome is gonna really hinge on where that mirror shows up. So what haven't we seen here yet? So we haven't seen the Green Pendant turn in. We haven't seen Spike Cave, which is in logic with the Cane of Burna. We haven't seen. I guess Ped is now irrelevant, as is all of Swamp Palace. So that is nice. I don't know if we've seen... I don't know if we've seen a peek at this Turtle Rock Medallion by either of these runners. Our mirror could definitely be there. Like I said, we did find this Cane of Samaria very early. Unfortunately, Benny is missing the Fire Rod from Hookshot Cave to... Oh no, the Fire Rod is waiting for them in Hookshot Cave, yeah. So... I wonder if Benny makes any consideration towards diving into Turtle Rock here. It is the Quake Medallion that opens up TR. So I have to imagine as Benny here, you're looking at diving into Turtle Rock once you find that Fire Rod. Because again, I know we don't have the Ice Rod, but the Ice Rod only locks Trinex, and Trinex might not even have an item. Ooh, this is aggressive though. I'm really surprised that Benny and Morbusel are diving in here without the Fire Rod. I mean, there are 6 checks available right outside the dungeon if you just dash over one screen and then dash back. This is interesting. I mean, of course, there's no way for them to know that the Fire Rod is there. This could be... Okay, so they are locked out of Turtle Rock by not finding a small key there. That could have been really interesting. So unfortunately, this is going to basically feel like a time waste because they're going to find their Fire Rod in Hookshot Cave, and they're probably just going to come back here, right? I have to imagine, so... Kind of like what is it, like maybe a minute of time down the drain, unfortunately. But I have to say, it could have been a lot worse. If they had found a small key there, they could have been, you know, funneled into doing potentially the rest of the entire dungeon up to Laser Bridge, and that would feel really bad if the mirror, for example, was on the fire-locked side in those 2 chests. But as it stands now, they're probably just gonna feel a little bit silly and take a chuckle and ooh. Okay, this is also unexpected. The Benny and Morbusel choosing to leave behind Super Bunny Cave, as well as the rest of TR, and doing the sequence break to Spike Cave. I almost wonder if the plan here is to do Spike Cave and then walk out of here. It just seems like if you are gonna do Spike Cave, it seems like Super Bunny Cave has the same number of items, or it has double the amount of items, and it's gonna take kind of the same amount of time. Oh, they do have a fairy. Okay, that was their plan. I thought they had a potion for a second, but no, they're using their fairy, so they know what's up. So this is interesting. I guess. Oh, you know. This actually does make sense from Benny Morbusel's side to not do TR. Looks like there's a little bit of discussion going on. Yeah, unfortunate that a little bit weird that they decided to leave behind Super Bunny Cave, but we already know that there's nothing of relevance there. So I guess maybe the Cane of Burna was there, so that's kind of ironic that they skipped that one and then went to Spike Cave, but no big deal. But it does actually make sense to not do Turtle Rock here because getting the Fire Rod does still open up both Skullwoods and Ice Palace, so you definitely want to do those first. Yeah, I have to say, where did we find that Quake Medallion? Oh, Quake Medallion was on Pyramid Ledge, right? That's right. So I have to imagine Tyrant. Let's see. I have to imagine that Tyrant and Benny are just gonna trade places and do the same thing that each other did. Right? Tyrant's gonna take this all the way to Dig Game, Stumpy, and then I assume they're gonna do Pyramid Ledge and Pyramid Fairy. They could decide to leave out Catfish, but the argument for doing Catfish is pretty strong while you're in the area. So I have to imagine both of these runners just going to retrace each other's steps for now. Tyrant still has the boots checks to do as well, and then once all of that is done, then things are going to get interesting, right? Because then we still haven't seen the Shovel Dig spot from either of our runners, so that's still an open possibility. Tyrant still needs to do the boots checks, and both of our runners still need to do the green pendant turn-in, because Benny did also decide to clear out Tower of Hera. And then, of course, we got the elephant in the room, which is Turtle Rock. Right, there's 5 checks in Turtle Rock. We have access to, at minimum, 4 of them. Looks like Tyrant going to pick the frog here, so this could actually be really big if the Smith turn-in is the mirror. So they're not going to be able to do the Big Bomb turn-in because they already have a follower. You can't have both the frog and the Big Bomb. So it looks like they're going to prioritize doing Smith Chain instead. I wonder if they're going to start... Okay. I was going to say, this would have been a chance to start at Link's house instead and get the Shovel Dig spot along the way. I'm just really curious to see what's in there. Alright, over on Benny and Womacill's side, looks like it is going to be a same route in Ice Palace, if I am not mistaken. Okay, so Tyrant's going to do the boots checks and then turn in the Smith. Yeah, so like I said, we've got Shovel Dig spot. We've got I guess Magic Bat is irrelevant because that's blocked by the mirror. So we got Shovel Dig spot, we got Green Pendant turn in, and I guess Purple Chest, and then we have all of TR. So it's more likely that we're going to see the mirror in TR than outside of TR, I feel like, just by a little bit. Okay, but if the mirror is on Smith turn-in, that could definitely be huge for Tyrant, as I said. I have to imagine Benny... Let's see, yeah, I think if I was in Benny and Womacill's shoes after Ice Palace, I'd probably be thinking of maybe the Shovel Dig spot, but after that, or Skullwoods first, of course, but then... I guess... Yeah, especially since both the items of Skullwoods were just in the back, you could just do the back of Skullwoods and just be done, and same quit out of there, and then head over to Turtle Rock. Looks like Tyrant is going to remain committed to Smith Chain here, so they're going to pick up the purple chest. I kind of like this. If you're going to put in the effort to choose, they chose to turn in the Smith over doing Pyramid Fairy, right? So they kind of already put in that effort. Kind of makes sense to follow it up with purple chest because this kind of leverages the fact that you've already done the Smith turn-in. Very nice hook speed setup by Tyrant to get through this screen faster. And that is going to be crystal number 5 for Benny. So we're tied up at 5. Oh no, Benny still has to do Skullwoods. Okay, so we're gonna see the purple chest turn in, and potentially finally gonna get to see the shovel dig spot? Yeah, it looks like we're going to do that on the way. These are two checks that we haven't seen. Okay, and Benny is going to rush over to Skullwoods, I have to imagine. We'll see if they choose to route it front to back or back to front. I think in Tyrant's case, it made a lot of sense to route Skullwoods back to front because they were planning on stepping out into Village of Outcasts and Thievestown afterward. And there's the mirror in the shovel dig spot. It was accessible this whole time. Ditching that purple chest, say bye to the triple chest. We don't need that. We're in go mode for Tyrant 242 at the 1 hour and for the 1 hour and 5 minute mark. Feels a little bit bad given that we had that shovel a lot earlier, I think. We just didn't manage to find a great time to squeeze in that check. And yeah, I think on Tyrant's side, for example, there could have been a possibility of doing it on the way to turn the Smith. Could have saved him a little bit of time. Unfortunately, if you have the Smith, you kind of have to turn in the Smith. He won't follow you into any dungeons, so that would have been a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, Benny definitely had a good option to get that shovel dig spot on the way to Desert Palace, I think. So we'll have to see where Benny goes after this. Looks like they are going to actually be doing Skullwoods back to front. As I was saying, I think this was a no-brainer for Tyrant to do it back to front because they were planning on walking back out to Village of Outcasts and Thievestown. I think for Benny and Warmasil, there was a little bit more credence to doing it front to back because that is overall, I think, on average, going to lead to a faster time to full clear the dungeon. But then again, I think in this situation, since you're one item from go mode, I think back to front still makes sense because as soon as you find your mirror, you're just done, so you're not necessarily even looking to full clear the dungeon. Alright, so it looks like Tyrant is going to go ahead and give us our Specky clip here. Very nicely done, and Benny is going to be entering their fight with Moth. Just 4 clean slashes will do it here, and looks like Moth was pretty cooperative this time. And Tyrant is blazing through this dungeon. Swamp Palace is a very fast dungeon when you get to just go mode it and skip all the chests. It looks like they are gonna go for a diver down glitch here. Okay, it looks like we're gonna set up for a, rightward bomb setup, so it'll be kind of diverless down setup. It's a nice one to know. I think a lot of mentees actually find that setup to be easier to do than the splash setup. The unfortunate thing is that setup does not work in Left Side Swamp, so in order to do Left Side Swamp, you do have to end up learning the splash setup. Okay, and it's decision time for Benny. Are they going to walk out of here? Or are they going to save and quit? Looks like they're gonna take the walk out of Skullwoods. It's a little bit unfortunate as, one way for them to really catch up to Tyrant would be if they just had a hunch about the shovel dig spot and chose to do that first. But it looks like they are going to go ahead and take this time to grab the Smith, I think, right? They haven't done Smith turning yet? Yeah. In the meantime, Tyrant making quick work of Argus. It's a much easier fight with Gold Sword. And get some Mirror Shield for the Trebles, although that's not super relevant given that we're not going to be doing Laser Bridge today. Okay, so Tyrant 242 is going to be heading over to Ganon's Tower. Benny and Warmasil gonna grab the Smith here. I do wonder if they're going to do the shovel dig spot on the way and run into that unfortunate situation where you have a blacksmith following you around. Okay, it looks like they are also going to start a sanctuary, so maybe we're going to get the exact sequencing of checks, and they're going to... Oh, Tyrant getting really, really trolled by those dead rocks in that screen. Unfortunate. Now, I wonder if we're going to get the exact sequence of checks on Benny's side with the Smith turn-in into picking up the purple chest and then saving and quitting and then getting the shovel dig spot, then we'll have to see. I hope for their sake they do not go to Turtle Rock, though. Alright, Tyrant choosing to take this way up to Ganon's Tower. You get to avoid the dead rocks, and I don't think Tyrant has actually opened up Turtle Rock. Yeah, because they don't have the Quake Medallion anyway, so this way is actually, I think, ever so slightly faster if you have not opened up the TR portal yet. And looks like Benny is gonna, yeah, head back into the portal and grab their purple chest, so similar thoughts on both sides here. And Tyrant 242 gonna be heading into Ganon's Tower at the 1 hour and 10 minute mark. So Benny is behind basically one full Swamp Palace clear. It's really interesting because, you know, I was saying through the rest of the seed, you know, these runners were basically retracing each other's steps, and then I was actually liking Benny's position more since they just had the boots for longer. But then it just worked out that that shovel dig spot was the answer for go mode for the mirror, and Tyrant 242 just ended up getting there faster, right? Tyrant 242 did not end up spending time to do, you know, Pyramid Fairy and Pyramid Ledge and Catfish. So that's, you know, that's a major difference here. And it looks like, unfortunately, Benny gonna be doing the purple chest turn in first here. Hopefully they're gonna dash over to the shovel dig spot next. Yeah. I think this ordering also makes sense. You get to dash over to the shovel dig spot since you no longer have your purple chest. Alright, in terms of GT routing, looks like Tyrant 242 did go for the compass chest room first, so that's this room that they're in with the 4 chests. We'll see if GT basement routing ends up playing a factor in this race or not. And that is go mode for Benny and Mormasil. They just need to head over to Swamp Palace, and yeah, you know, the natural instinct to try and save and quit, but it might actually be faster to dash over there. I'm actually not sure. Tough to say. Alright, Tyrant is going to be going to the left side of GT now. I will say the most common route that I've heard from mentees is the Hope Left route. Heard a lot of comments about mentees hating the path to the compass chest room. They don't like having to deal with the speed torches room with all the Gibdos and the Wallmaster and everything, so if Benny does decide to do that route, they are gonna... Oh, epilepsy warning. If Benny does decide to do that route, they are gonna gain a little bit of time back. But as it stands, this race is solidly in Tyrant's hands. Okay, it's a nice red mail pickup there in the map chest of Ganon's Tower. And remember, in Ganon's Tower, all we're looking for is the big key here. So as soon as Tyrant gets that, the only other thing that they might be wanting is the silver arrows, which could be anywhere, really. And Benny gonna start go-moding Swamp Palace here. Okay, Benny actually gonna skip the chests in skip the small key in the room above the Specky Clip room. It is actually slightly faster since that key is actually the slowest key to get in the dungeon, so gonna be making a few seconds back on Tyrant, but of course a few seconds is not quite enough to make up this difference. And Tyrant 242 finds their big key in the bottom right chest of Randomizer room, and is going to begin their climb. They're looking pretty good on their resources. They also have a red potion on hand. And of course they do have half magic. Like I said, the main thing that's missing from their arsenal is those silver arrows, which I wouldn't be surprised if they were hanging out in Turtle Rock or Swamp Palace. each runner has their own kind of personal preference in terms of how many chests to open on the way. You know, we saw Benny did the diver down glitch and then chose to not open either of the two chests in that room. You know, if you end up opening some of these chests and they do end up paying off with silver arrows, that can definitely save you a bunch of time, but each chest is not super likely on its own to contain the silver arrows, and each one of those chest opens does take a little bit of extra time, so it can start adding up. Alright, Benny entering their fight with Argus, as Tyrant heads into the gauntlet section of GT. Some more ether usage, more flashing lights. Ether Medallion, of course, being not maybe not an optimal strategy to use with Stalfos, but a very consistent strategy. Alright, and Benny gonna set up for phase 2 of this Argus fight as Tyrant finishes the last few screens of the GT Gauntlet. Looking good so far on Tyrant's side. Even picks up an extra heart there. Oh, yeah, definitely don't want to save and quit there. Definitely going to want that crystal for Benny. Alright, and the Lanmo refight, this time with a much better sword. The last time Tyrant had to do this was on Fighter Sword, so probably feels really nice having a gold sword here. Okay, and Benny is going to save and quit and head up to the mountain. It's going to be good, looking like it's going to be a pretty good time. Pretty good overall completion time for both of these runners. Could be looking at a sub 130 time, pending, you know, pending the Ganon fight, of course, but not super worried given that our runners are going to both have access to Gold Sword. Benny also choosing to take the Super Bunny route to GT. Okay, and Tyrant is through the first Torches room, going into the second Torches room here. Got plenty of magic, thanks to half magic. And we don't need the key here from the mini Helmas. It looks like Tyrant isn't interested in opening any of these chests either. Yeah, Benny saying goodbye to those two chests that we skipped earlier in Super Bunny Cave, knowing that neither of those is progression. We also know that they're not a silver arrow, so it doesn't matter. Ooh. Unfortunate that Tyrant got knocked out of that dash. And unfortunately gets two pokes on Moldorm, so gonna have to take an extra hit here. But cleans up the fight. And Benny is gonna be entering in, I think, looks like around 7 minutes-ish behind Tyrant, if I'm not mistaken. 6 or 7 minutes behind. So basically a full GT clear. Again, they will be able to make up a little bit of that difference if they choose to not go to the compass room first. Actually, looks like maybe a left first route, unless this is over to Stalfos room and then mirror. So we'll see. All right, Tyrant entering their fight with Aga 2. It's a nice double there. Generally, especially for these mentees, I think if you can ever get 2 hits on Aghanim for any of these warp positionings, you're pretty happy. It looks like Benny is deciding to do the going over to Stalfos room and then mirroring, so unfortunately they're not going to get any time back. In fact, this is going to be a little bit slower to get the big key than what Tyrant did. Alright, Tyrant is gonna prepare to go into their Ganon fight. You see a pretty clean... Oh, okay, as I say that. I was gonna... Oh, okay, that was really close by Benny. A mostly very clean Torches room until the very end. It should be a pretty straightforward fight against Ganon for Tyrant. Again, it's just 6 slashes for phase 1 and 6 slashes for phase 2. We've got plenty of safeties. They even have a nice setup there where they're able to stand inside the fire bat ring. And yeah, just gonna use the Cane of Burna for some extra safety. Definitely don't mind that at all. Okay, misses that hit on the beginning of phase 3, but no big deal. They've got plenty of magic for phase 4 for their silverless portion of the fight. And Benny, unfortunately, not finding the big key over there on the compass chest side. I'm gonna have to go over here again to the left side. They are gonna be able to do this alternate route through this room, which is a little bit faster. And Tyrant setting up for their torch glitch. Nice, manages to get it successfully. And we'll see how they do with getting these spin slashes on Ganon as he starts each of these warps. Can of course actually slash at Ganon, that will work too, or even get a poke. But of course a spin is the easiest to time since it has a large hitbox and also lasts a long time, so generally spins are what you want to go for. Doing pretty good so far. Benny unfortunately missing the strategy in that spike room. And at this pace, Tyrant is on route to a very good time here. Just a few more of these cycles, and Benny is about to find their big key in the bottom right chest here. Tyrant, yeah, unfortunately not being able to get that one. He's going to drink the red potion for safety. And Benny is going to start their GT climb as Tyrant gets these last few silverless spins on Ganon. Liking what I've seen so far. This is definitely a time in the seed where some nerves can start to kick in, but looks like Tyrant held it together at the end. Really, really impressive. Can't overstate how important it is to just like stay calm during the last part of the seed. You know, like for a lot of these mentees, this is their first time racing, and looks like Tyrant is going to finish out with an end time of 1:21 and 30 seconds. So great job, and GG's to Tyrant. We're gonna go ahead and watch Benny and Warmsil finish out the rest of this run as they perform the GT climb and then take down Ganon. But yeah, as I was saying, you know, like a lot of these mentees, it's going to be their first time racing, you know, first time in a competitive environment. I know it's like not like huge stakes. It is just the mentor tournament, and we're all here to learn. But you know, the first time that you're trying to take down a Ganon fight, and you know that the opponent, you have no idea when your opponent on the other side could be finishing. You know, your heart starts pumping a little bit faster than usual, and fingers start shaking. So definitely great to see that Tyrant was able to keep it together and not really freak out during the Ganon fight at all, as far as I can tell. Okay, Benny needs to be a little bit careful in this Ganon tower climb. They only have 3 hearts left, and unfortunately they don't really have any safeties here. That's a nice heart pickup. Really unfortunate that in this room there are actually hearts and magic refills underneath those 4 pots, but lifting those pots is so awkward because of the spark. I don't think it's like ever worth it. Okay, electing to try and use the... Oh my gosh, okay, they're at 1 heart. They need to be really careful here. Especially against... Oh, okay. A lot of projectiles going on in this fight, but I think they should be okay. Okay. Just needs 1 more hit on this Landmo, I think. Oh gosh. This is stressing me out. Okay. Now it just needs 1 more hit. Or a spin. Oh gosh, please! I saw that happening in slow motion before my eyes. The shooter was there. I saw the dodge, and then I was like, no, the knockback. Alright, so Benny gonna have to restart on this climb. I don't know if Benny and Warmsil are, you know, some runners do like to be aware of when their opponent finishes. Other runners will just not really look at the race time room at all. But if they don't know, you know, whether their opponent has finished or not, if they already know, then maybe they're taking it easy and being like, okay, we lost, let's just finish this. But if they don't know, you know, taking a death in the GT climb is kind of like the last thing you want to feel. And that's another reason why A lot of us mentors will just really harp on get your practice in for GT, get your practice in for Ganon. These are things you're going to have to do not only for every seed, but also at the end of every seed, and that's really when things can start to really feel, you can really start to feel the pressure. Alright, so Benny is going to have only 2 hearts again. Not in a great situation. I have to imagine that as they cross this cannonball bridge, they're going to want to go and bonk across to get the 2 fairies. They also have the bug net in case they want to stash one of them away in a bottle. But yeah, I definitely don't want to go into the gauntlet with only 2 hearts, especially considering what happened last time. Okay, so it is going to catch one of those fairies and probably going to take the other. Nice. There's a full magic in the bottom pot as well, but it looks like Benny was just fine. You know, they had more than a full vanilla bar of magic since they have half magic on hand. Alright, so round 2 of the gauntlet. Hopefully this time going a little bit more smoothly for Benny and Warmissel here. And they are going to choose to use the Ether Medallions, so flashing lights warning. Yeah, this makes sense, especially, you know, you tried it once and you kind of got knocked around, lost a lot of health. Might as well make it easy on yourselves second time around. Okay, now heading into these rooms with the ice floor. The ice floor, I think, was a little bit of a hiccup last time. Okay, nice usage of the hook shot to grab the heart. And nice fire rod shot. Let's see if... okay. And nice... The mirror shield protected from that shooter fireball, but unfortunately... Yeah, you'd think that the mirror shield would just, like, bounce off Beamos attacks as well, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. Oh, and gets snagged by the same thing happened! Got knocked into the shooter fireball. Oh, and that's really unfortunate too. When the first Landmo is exploding, the projectiles that it fires are actually invisible. Okay, we're almost done with this fight, just needs one more slash or spin to land. It looks like they're... oh gosh, okay. There is a heart that they can pick up in this next room, plus they still have their fairy on hand, so... Okay, that's nice. Okay, so you see them you see Benny using the hook shot to collect that heart. That was actually very intentional. Probably some heads-up advice from the mentor, I have to imagine. If you pick up a heart using the hook shot with a boomerang, there's actually a small chance that you get 2 hearts restored instead. So another one of the... I don't know if to call it brilliant or terrible parts of this game's coding. I think I read an explanation on why it happens once, and I don't remember it at all. It's some complicated thing, something to do with like the way that gotta go back and light that torch. Something complicated about how the order in which the game processes things, and sometimes if you get a specific timing of events, it just does the wrong thing. But it works out to our advantage whenever we happen to get lucky and get that extra heart. Okay, Benny also choosing not to open the rest of these chests here in the GT climb. Oh, unfortunately misses the spacing on that bomb just a little bit. Yep, and gonna grab that heart from the top left pot and the magic from the bottom right pot. There is also a heart in the middle pocket there, but that one can be a lot more awkward to grab. Okay, gets the dash hit, and yeah, very clean Moldorm 2 fight on Benny's side. Ooh, very nice dash by Benny. That's something that Tyrant 242 was, I think, trying to do, but unfortunately didn't get it that cleanly, if I remember correctly. So nice to see Benny succeed on that dash. Alright, we're into the Agatu fight. The patterns for this fight are going to be the same as we saw on Tyrant's side. Benny a little bit behind, given that Tyrant got a double hit on the first pattern. Oh, and unfortunately he misses all three, or both of the yellow balls on that cycle. Okay, manages to get the single hit there. That was a very nice double. Okay. Now this fight is going to be a little bit more tricky for Benny, given that Benny's only at 4 hearts. And they do still have that fairy on hand, but remember they don't have the Cane of Burna, which I have to assume was in Super Bunny Cave. So it's going to be a little bit harder for them to just, you know, like, abuse the Cane of Burna and just dodge everything that way. But hopefully this fairy is going to be enough for them to get through the fight. Okay, that is going to be all the hits they need for Phase 1. And the Ganon teleports are seated as well, so they're going to get the same position here. Unfortunately, takes a hit there. Oh, okay, that was very dangerous, but manages to get enough iframes from the hookshot. Oh, I can't believe they managed to dodge that first fire bat there, but, you know, luckily has the fairy on hand. I'm not sure if they got enough slashes for Phase 2. I guess we'll see in a minute. They did, okay. So on Phase 3. And they're gonna have to set up for this torch glitch. So again, lighting the left-hand torch before the right-hand torch goes out will cause the right torch to continually stay lit and never go out. Okay, you have to dodge the first fire bat, and then looks like the arrows were in Swamp Palace. Not really surprised to see that. Okay, nice job on the torch glitch. Just needs to get these spin hits. Okay, looking pretty solid so far. If you can get 2 spin hits on each torchlight, you're doing pretty okay. Optimal is, you know, 3, but I think the fact that these mentees can even pull off a successful sliverless fight is often something to be celebrated. You know, again, this is week 1 of the tournament, and we're already seeing this kind of skill level. Yeah, some very nice, consistent double hits on these cycles. Yeah, this looks very confident from Benny. Nice. Very solid Phase 4 from Benny. Great job. And Benny is going to finish overall about, let's say, 11 minutes behind Tyrant with a final time of about 1:32 and 20 seconds, it looks like. And GG's again to both of these runners, and of course both of their mentors. So Oficial Alex 2K6 on Tyrant's 242 side, and Mormasil on Benny's side. And yeah, there wasn't a ton of divergence in the seed from what these runners decided to do, but you know, there was a few key points when they decided to take different paths. I think the first one was Tyrant 242 deciding to go to Desert Palace early, whereas Benny put that off, and I thought for a minute that the seed was actually going to work out in Benny's favor, because Benny decided to jump into Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town early, and ended up being rewarded with the boots in Thieves Town. And I thought that was going to be, you know, kind of just add up to an incremental advantage, because Tyrant 242 decided to go up to Dark Death Mountain. They also cleared Ether Tablet and Tower of Hera while they were there. And, you know, they did find their Fire Rod, which is a good pickup, and they got their Cane of Burna, but they, you know, were without the boots for quite a bit longer, right? They decided to do Ice Palace and then Skull Woods, and so those were 2 dungeons that they had to clear without the help of the boots, as well as Desert Palace. You know, so 3 dungeons that Benny did with the boots that Tyrant did not. But unfortunately for Benny, Tyrant just ended up getting to that mirror that was in the shovel dig spot a little bit earlier. Again, one of the key differences was Benny decided to, I think, invest in doing Pyramid Fairy and Pyramid Ledge, and then taking that over to Catfish. So those were 3 checks that Tyrant 242 got to skip entirely. Never saw the Green Pendant turn in, but I guess that was ended up being nothing. And I think the Silvers were in Swamp Palace, which doesn't make sense to get because, you know, both of our runners, of course, go in Swamp Palace. It is worth noting that, you know, we could have potentially seen Silvers from one of the chests along the way in Swamp Palace. I don't think either of our runners decided to open the chests in, for example, the Diver Dam room. Possible that it could have been there, but also possible it could have just been on left side Swamp, and then it doesn't really matter. So that is going to do it for the seed. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this race between these 2 runners. Again, I will have both of their Twitch channels linked in the description of this video. I'm sure they would both appreciate it if you can give them a follow on Twitch. And if you enjoyed watching this match, I'll be trying to do more of these VOD commentaries. Yeah, you see Benny's collection rate a little bit higher than Tyrant's, which makes sense given how the seed worked out. Yeah, so I'll be trying to do a few more of these uploads as I have time throughout these weeks, in between, you know, mentoring for these actual mentee matches. And of course, I always encourage you to follow the Go Mode Podcast Twitch channel and the Go Mode Podcast Discord if you want to catch more of these races happening live. That is going to do it. Again, I have been DDR Kirby ISQ with this commentary, and I'll see you next time.